There is a strange breaking point certain people reach after years of constant interaction. The conversations start sounding repetitive. The laughter feels forced. Every notification starts to feel like an invasion. Even well-meaning interactions can begin to drain your energy, turning your days into a claustrophobic blur. We live in a culture that rewards unbroken availability. Replying instantly and remaining always reachable makes the people around you feel safe. Society values this predictability because an emotionally accessible person is much easier for others to manage. Surviving in this environment requires an unconscious trade-off. You build a mask, a softer, highly agreeable version of yourself. This persona exists to keep everyone else comfortable, smoothing over social friction at the expense of your own internal peace. Much of what we call constant communication functions as an addiction to distraction. We reach for the phone and engage in meaningless interaction to avoid the confrontation of sitting in silence and hearing our own thoughts. The psychiatrist Carl Jung argued that the human mind cannot hear itself clearly while drowning in the noise of other people. To reconnect with your actual identity, you have to withdraw from the crowd. A deep-seated terror of being forgotten often keeps us trapped in hollow relationships, far more than the fear of losing specific friends. We keep replying because we are afraid of what happens when we finally go silent. Going silent serves as a diagnostic tool. It exposes the underlying structure of your social life, showing you which relationships are built on genuine interest and which ones rely entirely on your uninterrupted availability. When you revoke access to yourself, the reaction from your social circle is often unsettling. People you considered close may suddenly act cold, become irritated, or show an intrusive, sudden interest in your business. This irritation stems from a loss of control. Your absence disrupts their ability to predict your behavior. When they no longer know where they stand with you, the resulting uncertainty triggers their frustration. This dynamic reveals the reality of emotional convenience. If you always listen without setting boundaries, you train people to use you as a dumping ground for their emotional baggage. They move toward you because you are a convenient resource. While anger gives someone an opening to engage with you, silence provides no such access. Silence forces manipulative people into a state of pure uncertainty, which is why they often find your absence more disturbing than your outward frustration. We often mistake emotional possession for intimacy. We assume that frequent messages and immediate replies equate to loyalty. In reality, some of the deepest bonds exist without the need for constant performance or reassurance. Stepping away burns off the emotional fog. Once the endless conversations stop, the patterns hiding in plain sight become visible. You may realize that many of your bonds were simply mutual distractions from loneliness, held together by nothing more than habit. The most difficult shift happens internally, when the social noise finally stops. Without an audience to perform for, the false persona you spent years maintaining begins to starve. This leads to an encounter with what Jung called the shadow. These are the buried, rejected parts of your personality, your anger, your ambition, and your exhaustion that you suppress to remain accepted by others. Suppressing these feelings drives them into the unconscious, where they covertly control your behavior. This is why people suddenly explode after years of being nice, or feel completely numb without knowing why. In the silence, you face the realization that much of your authentic personality was actually a social survival mechanism. Your humor and your agreeableness were often just tools used to avoid the threat of rejection. Isolation allows you to survive the collapse of your own ego illusions. The goal is to see your psychological patterns without the distortion of trying to maintain a carefully managed image for the world. Eventually, you return to normal life, but you may notice the old, desperate hunger for connection has died. You no longer feel responsible for maintaining every fading relationship or answering every message immediately. The need to seek approval fades as you realize people rarely see you as you are. They project their own wounds and insecurities onto your behavior. To one person, your silence is a threat. To another, it is a mystery. Both are projections. Distance finally breaks the heavy social hypnosis. It forces you to ask if you are living authentically, or if you are simply performing a character that society found acceptable. This journey defines a vital distinction. Loneliness is the pain of being unseen by others. Solitude is the peace of finally seeing yourself clearly. Jung's goal of individuation, becoming your true self, requires destroying the agreeable, available versions of yourself that existed only to keep other people comfortable. You must become less explainable to remain authentic. Disappearing creates the space needed to stop confusing your identity with a performance. If you never separate yourself from the noise, you will spend your life as the person the world rewarded you for being, rather than the person you actually are.